everybody, and welcome to our webinar on online learning. Now, we apologize for the technical difficulties we had earlier. It turns out some of our video broadcasting decided to engage in some social distancing, so we're going to go ahead and go the old school way where we record this and post it so that you can look at this with your staffs in your own convenience. So first off, my name is Trish Rofi, and I'm an emerging technology consultant with Learning Services Innovation, and I just want to take a moment to introduce my amazing MTech team who's with me today. So we have, come on in guys, we've got the amazing Mr. Benjamin Prather, Christine McKee, Michael Pazik, and we are here to help you navigate some resources that you can use for online learning. So they're going to be here in the room with me as I show you some of these great tools. So now, as we get started here, we just want to let you know, first of all, a little bit about our team and some messaging that we have here for you. So first of all, we hope that you all have this bit.ly. This is what we're looking at today, is knowing that we're looking at resources for online learning. In here we have all of the different materials we'll be showcasing for you, what they do in a brief tutorial video. This video is going to be going in depth to more of those different pieces. So our team is excited to help you get started. And what we really want you to understand, first of all, before we get too far into this, is don't panic. We know that all of us are experiencing changes moment by moment as we get information from Alberta Health Services and direction from our divisions. So today we really want you to understand the purposes of this webinar is so that we can dip our toes into potential digital tools to help us navigate instruction without our face-to-face environment. Right now, this isn't prescriptive tools. These are potential options that could help you as we wait for direction for when we're thinking about things like course load, timetables, what the expectations are for each grade level for work. And so we really want you to remember that this webinar isn't going to go through this is how much you have to teach and when you have to teach it. It's saying when we get some of those directives, now we have the digital tools available to us at our fingertips in order to make those decisions in a calm way. So we're all going to take a page from Dr. Hinshaw, and remember, calm is key as we start to navigate this new reality. The other thing you're going to find is that we're showing you tools that we're comfortable with, that we've been using in these environments for our day-to-day teaching for many years, in some case for us. And you're going to go, whoa, it's as easy as that, and it is. We're going to be exploring things like Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, Screencastify, Flipgrid, YouTube Live, and more. All of these tools, potential options to meet the needs of your students. This video webinar is going to be posted to our MTech channel, as well as we're going to be having technology videos that are released each week to help you navigate more online learning as we go with different tools. Now, before we jump too far into these digital tools, we want schools to have an opportunity to have some conversations for considerations for online learning. We know that there's going to be face-to-face interruptions to our in-class learning. We've had that happen to us in the past, even if students are taking extended vacations, maybe due to student illness or surgery. And so we want to be able to utilize the tools first and foremost that teachers and students are familiar with. This is not necessarily the time to introduce new technology tools that your students have never seen. This could cause more stress as they're already being taken out of one unfamiliar environment and now, being put into another one. So one of the things that we have to have conversations about is what devices are going to be used. So for your students, are they using only devices that they have available to them at home? Do they have webcams that are going to need to be necessary? Are they giving some video responses? And what some schools are looking at doing is, can we lend these devices from our existing school devices to our students at home for these environments? One of the things we'll note is the tools we're showing you today work on any device. So we're showing you things that are good for Chromebooks, that are good for PCs, Macs, or even if all a student has is a mobile device, can they still access this information? We want to make sure that these tools work in every environment. The other thing we have to think about right now is Wi-Fi. We know that a lot of our public recreation spaces and libraries, those are closed right now. So we can't rely on the Wi-Fi from those spaces. So we really have to hope that our students do have some connectivity, knowing that we may have to provide some paper and pencil physical material lessons to our parents and caregivers in order to work with our students if we don't have technology as an option. The other thing we're going to talk about today is, does learning occur in a synchronous or asynchronous manner, or maybe even both? And what that means is, are students learning at the same time or are they learning at different times? We know that in our traditional face-to-face classrooms, we really do have a lot of synchronous learning. The teacher's giving instruction and all of the students are learning at the same time. But we've also run that in an asynchronous way, where perhaps you have small groups of students working on different things at different times while the teacher is working with, perhaps a guided reading group or guided math. And so we want to make sure that we have the technology tools that can support both types of learning, knowing that it's going to be the teachers that are determining the needs of their particular students and the age group of those students that require those specific tools. The other thing we want to share for some of these considerations is how are we potentially going to plan? Now, while today the focus is digital tools that we could potentially use to support our learners and our parents, we want you to know that the rest of the Learning Services Innovation Consultant team is working on more content suggestions for you as far as planners. How do we put together a daily or weekly plan for our elementary, junior high, and high school students? As well as how do we inform our parents about what the expectations are, how to navigate these digital tools as well. And what you're going to be able to see on this particular slide is we've taken some inspiration from the ASIJ Elementary School Distance Learning Support site, who's already have been doing this for 7 weeks. And they have some great examples of organization and planning for students at multi-divisional levels in order to be able to best navigate what the expectations are week to week. Keeping in mind, these are potential options only. We need to take our direction from our division as far as what these expectations of workload and organization are required. And so what you'll be able to do here is click for a complete parent guide to our Google Classroom. How do they get home and navigate to these materials, as well as some distance learning plans available for your resources. One of the things that we have put together as well is what a communication overview can look like. We really wanted to break this down into 3 specific areas because we know that that's what we're going to be dealing with when it comes to the day-to-day operations of our new learning environments. So we're going to be looking at the delivery of lessons and activities. This is really important to be able to have the workflow between teachers and students. We want to be able to look at the work and the feedback. While we haven't made any specific directives as far as summative assessment goes, we know that that day-to-day workflow and formative feedback is going to be important in the continuation of learning for students. And then we want to look at that direct communication. How are we reaching out specifically to students, whether that's via text-based information, video chats, and emails, as well as our parent community, and for colleagues to be able to connect with us as consultants and with each other as we're looking forward to planning. One of the things that the MTech team is really committed to is being able to answer your questions. And we know right now there are going to be many questions as we navigate this new reality. We were hoping to answer these questions live during our webinar, but never fear, the MTech team is here regardless of the technology challenges we are given. So if you still want to be able to ask your questions, regardless of what division you're from, please go ahead and fill it out in this form, ECSD online Q&A. And what we'll do is we're going to take the opportunity to host another future upcoming webinar, future videos, as well as we can reach out to you directly via a chat and email to answer those very important questions. Now, I think we're ready to jump into some of our tools. So what we wanted to focus on today is looking at the tools that help us support digital classrooms, looking at tools that help support video, like we're doing right now, and then looking at other different online practice and reinforcement tools as we're giving students the opportunity to practice these skills at home. And so that's how we're going to break down the next few tools we're using. Now we know that many different divisions across Canada and around the world are looking at this video today, and there may be questions as to why weren't some of these other tools included. Well, first and foremost, we're looking at tools today that are available to us in Edmonton Catholic Schools. We are a dual platform district where we offer Office 365 and Google tools in addition to other digital platforms available to our staff and students. As well, we know right now, sort of in some of the panic and preparedness of getting ready for this new at-home learning, we've seen many posts on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest saying, here's 100 online resources to support home learning. We don't want to overwhelm. What we want to look at is the best of the best, what's readily available, what's already familiar to our students and our teachers. And we want to look at a quality of instruction with a reduced environment. We're not necessarily looking at recreating 7 hours of content in a day. And so we really have to look at what tools best support the instruction we would have had in our classrooms face-to-face, and how do we provide those same materials with a twist, with a bit of a difference now in an online environment so that students, parents, and caregivers are able to navigate these at home. So again, if you have questions, please make sure you send them out to us, but otherwise we're going to look at what we have here. So this is how we're going to break it down. We're really going to look at those digital classrooms, screencasting, video recording, and of course our online practice tools. Now, the first thing we're going to look at, of course, is digital classrooms for assignments, workflow, and feedback. And we know that the vast majority of the province is using Google Classroom. Even here in Edmonton Catholic Schools, we've seen so many teachers and students using this powerful learning tool in order to be able to post assignments, have workflow, give feedback and assessment, all in one easy place. So just expanding my screen here, a couple of the things that you're going to notice that whenever we have any of our slides in our presentation, we've tried to make clickable links so that you can get the direct support materials that we have available for you, as well as a brief tutorial video. When it comes to Google Classroom, if you've never used this before, don't panic. Our MTech support site actually has complete and comprehensive support for all of the different Google tools. You can take an entire Google course from us just on Google Classroom, getting started creating your own for the very first time. We have supports for every single one of our Google tools, as well as classroom resources, templates, and activities for you to be able to use in this particular environment. So it's important to remember you have a couple of choices here. You can continue to use your existing Google Classrooms that you have been using throughout this school year in the manner that you've been using it. Or you can choose to put a pause on those Google Classrooms to start new Google Classrooms that are specifically for the online learning approach, because it might be structured differently. I'm going to show you how that can look a little bit different in response to no longer having a face-to-face environment as our exclusive mode of teaching. As well, we can look at how we can combine supports. So perhaps you have a teacher in your school that hasn't quite got started using Google Classroom, or perhaps you want to join forces like we have to do here on the MTech team, and you can have co-teachers in one classroom supporting a larger group of students. Really, the choice is going to be yours, and I'm going to show you what that can look like. So if I switch on over here, I've gone to classroom.google.com, and I can see all of my different Google Classrooms that I have. Now, it's very easy to start a Google Classroom. I simply hit the plus button in the top right-hand corner, and I can say create a class. Again, I can call this online learning, but I'm probably going to call it my class or course name, and I'm going to say create. And lickety-split, with no coding or computing experience required, you have created your very own Google Classroom. So now that we have our classroom environment, a couple of important features that I'm going to give you here. This is our landing page. This is our stream when it comes to the Google Classroom. This is where you will be able to have class comments and discussions, as well as you can post announcements, and any assignments that get posted, there'll be a reminder posted here in the stream. Classwork is where we're primarily going to be working today, showing how you can create the different classes, and of course how you can create topics and assignments. What we want to look at right now is the People tab. This is where I can go ahead and invite people to my classroom. You can see that I'm the teacher here. I can invite another teacher to my classroom. Perhaps I have Mr. Cusack, who's going to be in here teaching with me. Now we're both teaching this class together. You can have up to 20 teachers in one Google Classroom. For students, we have a couple of choices. Yes, I can go ahead and manually add each of my students, but honestly, the best way to add your students is to simply give them the class code and allow them to join. Now, we realize this might be difficult as some of your students are no longer face-to-face, especially if you're starting a new classroom. So in this particular case, you could send this out to students via email, you can add them manually, or of course you can get this messaging to parents. When you have your people in your classroom, you're going to notice that you have a list of all of your different students available to them, and you're going to see email all guardians. This is a nice one because it means that I actually have email set up in order to communicate with our students. Now, in Edmonton Catholic Schools, this unfortunately does not work in our environment. We don't have Gmail connected to our Google Classroom, so we have to continue to use Outlook and Microsoft Teams. So just be aware that that's not the way we contact, but for any of our other divisions, you'll be able to do that. In the top right-hand corner, you're going to see our Google Classroom settings. This is where you can look at the class details. This is where you can see the general information about the class code. Now, important to note here in this stream, the default is students can post and comment. That means they can create posts just like you can. I often teach that to only the teacher can post and comment, simply because I don't necessarily need my students creating posts, but I do want them to be able to comment and interact in the classroom. If you're worried about students commenting in between class time, just remember you can leave it so that only the teacher can post or comment, students can only comment, and you can turn that off and on during school hours during the day. So that's completely up to you. The other thing that you can do is you can have guardian summaries. I think this is really important to talk about the guardian summaries because sometimes there's a lot of discussion about, do we invite parents inside of our Google Classrooms? What's really important to note, and you're going to see this in our parent guide to Google Classroom, we're not actually inviting parents into the Google Classroom where they are physically inside the work, can comment, see the other kids, any of those types of things. What these are is these are parent and guardian summaries so that they get an email summary of upcoming work, announcements, and missing work. That's it. They're not actually in the classroom. And it's really important to note that while perhaps I'm a younger student, I'm sitting here, I'm logged into Chrome, I'm in my Google Classroom, my caregiver is with me, they're working with me to navigate some of these assignments and things. We don't actually want our parents logged in and completing the work and doing those different pieces. Now we know that that's hard when we're not all face-to-face, but it is really important to remember that parents are there to support their students, but that we don't actually want them in commenting and working inside these classrooms. It's why they're protected domains, to those different environments. So when you set up the parent and guardian summaries, you can see an example there if you want to see what a parent would see. This is, potentially what they would look at that weekly summary for all of the different classrooms. Once one teacher has set up the parent and guardian summaries for a student, it's very easy now to have that email address pulled over to any of the Google Classrooms. So that's important to note. So I'm just going to save and show that here. If I was to go ahead and I was going to look at inviting Ben's parents, and I'm inviting Nicole Lafreniere, she's going to get that guardian summary. You can have multiple caregivers invited to be able to see this classroom. I say invite. Now, any other teacher that has been in their Google Classroom and they include parent and guardian summaries, that email address is already pulled over for them to be able to have that parent communication. All right. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be looking at how to create our first online learning assignment. We're going to go to the classwork tab like we normally do, and we're going to look at our create button. Here you can see I have the ability to be able to create an assignment. Now, hopefully a lot of us have done this in our classrooms before because we're creating these assignments as a great place for workflow for digital work, even when our students are face-to-face. So I'm going to go ahead and create my assignment title, and I can put in some instructions. So now that I have my title, my instructions, I can go ahead and start to add my content. Here, I could create new templates right here from inside my classroom, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some of the ones that I have already available to me from my Google Drive. In here, thank goodness for recent, I can go ahead and look at some of those pieces that I already have made available to me. So I'm going to go ahead and look for my nonfiction text, graphic organizer, and in this case, instead of students viewing the file, I'm actually going to make a copy for each student. I can add more things. I'm going to go ahead and I have a PDF of some information about different nonfiction text features. I'm going to leave that as students can view this file. I even have a YouTube video here about vocabulary text features that the students would be able to explore, and I'm going to hit share, and I'm going to copy that. Now I can add that via YouTube in my classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that video and add it. So now I can see that I have the ability to be able to add these different features into my classroom. A couple of important features that we can see inside of the assignment is I have the ability to assign this to this particular classroom or multiple classrooms at once. So if you're running online learning for students at home right now, you could decide, am I just doing this for my grade 3A class, or am I putting all of my grade 3s into one Google Classroom supported by those 3 classroom teachers? This is completely up to you at your site. The other thing you can do is assign it to all of your students, or you can create differentiated assignments for specific students. So we know that even in our face-to-face classrooms, we had many students learning within our environment that were working at different levels. That's not going to change just because they're at home. And so what we have to consider are the assignments that we're creating for our students, are these ones that are for all of them? Or can we still go in and create those unique assignments for those students with differing needs? We have that ability here in the Google Classroom. And finally, what I can look at is I can make this graded or ungraded. So we know that we have not been given direction as far as summative assessments right now in this online environment, because really we don't know who's doing the work, who's supervising the work, how do we ensure all of the students have the opportunity to do the work. So as we're waiting for direction from our divisions, we might want to leave some things as ungraded right now. We can give it a specific due date and time. And really important in Google Classroom is to use topics. Now I want to talk to you about topics because we have the opportunity to be able to organize things based on perhaps subject areas. So I could call this language arts. But one of the things you might want to consider is perhaps creating this as time frame topics so that it organizes your Google Classroom based on the period of learning for your students. So in this particular case, I might want to be able to make my topic be the calendar week. So in this particular assignment, we know that right now next week is our spring break. So perhaps what I want to do is I want to make this assignment for when we come back. And this is going to be for March 30th to April 1st. That's going to be the topic that this assignment is going to go under. So that way it's organized for students and for parents to be able to know what's happening. Of course, I better change my due date if I'm going to be doing that. And now I'm able to go in there and change that. So it's just one way that we can do it. Now, rubrics, we know that we can add in here. Again, we're not going to touch on rubrics right now because we're going to wait to see what assessment looks like in our online environments. So I think I'm ready to post. Now, just so you know, teachers, you don't have to work on the spot. I don't have to assign this right now. A couple of things I can do is I can schedule it. This is really nice if you're working with your colleagues. Right now we have empty classrooms that have only teachers in them. So we can come together, create these assignments, and we can schedule the assignments throughout the days or weeks upcoming. And of course I can save a draft and not have to post this at all right now. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign it. So here we have the assignment all organized. And what you're going to notice is your topics are going to appear on the left-hand side. So you can see sometimes the benefit of being able to create the topic perhaps around time frames or time frames and subject areas. That's completely up to you. And now students will be able to navigate as to what needs to get done. Now, one of the things I would definitely be including in every assignment right now is an opening and welcoming video from me. Hey kids, this is what we're doing today, and going through those different resources. I'm going to be adding that and adding the assignment to add that when we cover the video portion of this webinar. So just know that's something that I would put in just like this. I'm recording right now. I'd be showing my screen and telling the kids what it is I want them to be able to do. So now that we have that, a few things that I'm going to be able to show you is what does this look like from a student's perspective, and then how can we do some assessment as a teacher. So I'm going to flip on over to my student view here. And when the students are at home, a couple of really important things. Are they logged in to their Chrome browser? Here I've logged in with my demo student, and in our Getting Started guide with Google Classroom for parents, we do have some information about logging into that browser. So making sure that students are logged in. When they're logged in, they're going to see their school bookmarks bar, and they can navigate to Google Classroom. Once they're there, they'll see any of the classrooms that they're part of. Now you're going to see in the stream there's some information about the new assignment, or students can click over to classwork and they're going to be able to see that topic that I have, and they're going to be able to see the assignment itself. When they say view assignment, now they have all of their information in one place. Any of those pieces that have been added for me to view will be right there in the middle. Students would be able to click on the YouTube video and press play and be able to watch it right there.
Let's talk about
Students would be able to view any materials that you've added for them. And as well, they'll be able to look at their work. What their work means is anytime you attach a copy for a student, it already puts their name on it, saves it in their Google Drive, and names it according to the assignment. So they can open that up and just immediately beginning to work on the Google Doc that you gave them. Additionally, students have the opportunity to be able to ask class comments and to be able to have private comments. Private comments mean it's only from the student to the teacher. So students can ask for clarification, they can ask questions, and more. Only the teacher will be able to see that. For students to be able to add class comments, they can do that right there in the stream or under the classwork tab when they're actually in the assignment. When they're first viewing that assignment, they'll be able to see again class comments that are added. Now in this case, I went ahead and I had it turned off for students to be able to comment. So if I want students to be able to have those comments, I have to remember that in my classroom, in my settings, if I want students to be able to have those comments, I have to say, oh, okay, for this assignment or for this time frame, students can comment. Now, let's take a look at what this is going to look like from the teacher view now that I have some students in here. When I go ahead and see who's been assigned, I can see every student that has it assigned to them. I can see how many have turned it in, and at any given point, I can go in and look at particular students. Now, I can also see that my student demo asked a private comment, and I can respond to them. As well, I can go into the individual work of students, and it will open it up in assessment pane. I can see Ben is working in here right now. I can see him putting in some images and gathering some examples. What's great about this is I have some options for feedback at this point. Is there anything I can do to improve my work? I can go ahead and add some information right here for Ben. So here, I've asked Ben to add some more detail to his explanation about what each feature does to help the reader, and I can post that. One of the things that we have available to us in Edmonton Catholic Schools is we do also have Read and Write for Google Chrome. This allows me to leave voice notes. So I can go in here and I can leave my voice feedback for each student. So I could say, and allow my microphone, "This is a great start, Ben. I really love all of the images and examples that you've given for each one of the text features. What I want to know though is what does each one of those text features do to help the audience while they're reading?" When I go ahead and I hit that recording, and I can insert up to a 1-minute voice recording all over a student's work, it will insert as a play button docked on the side of their Google Doc. Now they hit play. "This is a great start, Ben. I really love all of..." And they hear my voice from far away. This is a nice way to still have that human connection even though we're learning virtually through a computer. Another thing that I can do is I can skip between my students simply with just the click of a button, or I can use the pull-down menu to go ahead and look at any particular student. This is great for me to be able to have a formative connection with my students and not have to wait for the summative turn-in button in order to see where they're at in their work. The other thing that I can do is I can use version history to help me understand how long a student has been inside an assignment and what they have done. If I go back to Ben's for a moment, because we were looking at his before, I'm able to actually pop this out into a full screen window so that I can now use the version history. I'm just going to close Read and Write here. Now what I can do is I can say File, and I can go ahead to his version history and see the version history. And what I'm going to see is the keystroke changes that Ben has done and how long has he worked on this document. Now we know Ben here, maybe he's done a little cutting and pasting, but that's the, what do we call that? The as seen on TV. I just pulled this out of the oven, movie magic, so that we can show you how this works. But the version history is a great way for you to see how long were your students in these different assignments, how long did it take them, what did they work on, what was their process, which again is going to be really nice to inform our instruction when we're trying to make judgments when we're not right there with our kids. But good job, Ben.
Thanks.
All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to show just another couple of features within the classroom. You can see here now that when I'm inside the assignment as the teacher, I can also see those class comments, remembering that students can see each other's class comments. So right now, Ben has asked the question, what if you can't find a book that has all the examples? Can you use another book? I can actually directly reply right to him, and so can other students, so that they'd be able to see what you're saying to them. So I have my message here to Ben, and now the whole class will be able to see it. Now, let's say, for example, Ben maybe said something that wasn't exactly what we want to happen in Google Classroom. Remember, you always have the ability as the teacher to immediately delete a comment, and you can mute Ben from here. But just know when I go back into my class settings and I look at my people, I can make sure that perhaps if I have certain students that are maybe struggling with online commenting, I don't have to shut it off for everybody. I can mute students from here as well. So it's just a good way to be able to safely control the interactions within our classroom. So those are the features of our Google Classroom. If you do want more of that in-depth support to see that a little slower and go through each item on its own, just remember that we're going to be having open office hours to be able to connect with our MTech team, as well as we have all of our video tutorials and templates on our MTech Google site. The next awesome tool we want to show you is Microsoft Teams. Now, we have the ability to be able to use both in our district. And so what we're going to be looking at is that same ability to attach materials and links and videos. You can still connect to other apps like Flipgrid, Kahoot, and Discovery. We're going to be showing some of you those today, as well as those class comments and discussion, feedback and assessment tools. And just know that the amazing Christine McKee has a complete support site that has been created just for Microsoft Teams, where you can go and learn about class collaboration, organizing content, doing more with assignments. You'll have a much more in-depth example of all of the different things that you can do with Microsoft Teams just by clicking that link. And there's a brief overview video here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be opening up my Microsoft team and showing you how I went in this. Now, what you're going to be able to see is I have a chat feature. I also have all of my different teams. Now, for teachers in Edmonton Catholic Schools, teams were potentially created through PowerSchool so that you could click on any one of them and activate that team. It'll already be populated with all of your students that were registered to you in PowerSchool. Now, in this particular case, you can join or create a team. If you hit create a team, you could create a new one that's specifically just for your online learning. Just like we did in Google Classroom, you don't have to only use your existing classes. You can create a brand new class all on your own. Now, I've created one today just for this example for our online learning. Resources for online learning classroom. And in here, I've already added my team. So I've added Christine and Michael and Ben to this. Now, this main landing page is a great place where you're going to see that you can start a conversation. Here's those class comments that you can have. And right now, I have Christine asking a question, where can I find the slides presentation from yesterday? So now I can give her that information. I can reply directly to her. I can give her a text-based comment, but I can also add an attachment. I can add that file or link straight from here, just to be able to give her that answer. Another thing I love about Microsoft Teams is we have the ability to engage in a class conversation via video right here. That video button sits right in the class comments. And so now what I'm able to do is I can say meet now, and anybody registered in this team, it would open up this and I could say, hi kids, we're here learning today. Mrs. Rofi's here to tell you all about learning about expansionism. And so we're going to be going through some notes today. We're going to be looking at a document that you guys are going to be filling out. And now I can see other people join in. We have to mute a couple of things there. And so right now, Ben is in here, Christine is in here. You would have to instruct your students some of those basics. You might even want to have your first chat not be academic, just be about, hey, here's how you use a video environment. So now I can see all my students in here, a little bit like the Brady Bunch, but you're going to have to tell your students when you're in here, when we're all in here together, hey team, we need to make sure that we mute our microphones so that we don't all hear each other at once. So it might be having some suggestions like raising your hand. And the teacher can call on each other. We can look at those different pieces and we can go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and hang up this morning video call with my class for today. We'll just dismiss that. All right, so now that I'm in here, one of the things that I can do, and I'm going to cancel this meeting for now. The other thing that I can do is I can create assignments. So just like when I was in Google Classroom, I have the ability to create an assignment right here within Microsoft Teams. When I create the assignment, I can go ahead and put in the title and the instructions. And I can also add a category. So just like we were talking about the topic in Google Classroom, category serves the exact same function when you're inside of Microsoft Teams. So in here, I have my title, I have my instructions. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I add that category. Again, you can think about how do you want to organize your Microsoft team. Do you want it to be organized according to subject area of the team itself? Do you want it to be organized according to that time frame that you expect the students to be able to explore those concepts and that work? So in this case, I'm going to look at a time frame. Now, I can add resources just like I could in my Google Classroom. This is going to pop open my OneDrive, and I have made a folder right here for my online learning. Inside my online learning, I have put my different PowerPoint presentations and my notes, as well as a graphic organizer for the students. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the different ones that I want to be able to attach. Now, while those are loading up and attaching, just remember that I can add different types of things to here, including I can have a rubric. I'm going to hold off on adding a rubric right now. I'm going to leave this be an ungraded assignment. It's more of a formative exploration of the content. Now, right now you can see here students edit their own copy of each one of these, but you can actually change that by clicking the 3 dots to the right of the material. So you can say, actually, I don't want them to be able to edit their own copy of the notes. I'm going to leave that so they're just viewing that, but I want them to be able to edit their own copy of the graphic organizer that I've provided them. I can assign it to this particular team, remembering that I can also add it to another class. I can assign it to all students or individual students. I can give it a due date, and of course, I can schedule that just like I could in Google Classroom. Now that I have this all done, I'm going to go ahead and say assign. Now my students will have access to this. When I go back to my general and to my posts, one of the things I'm going to notice is that now I can still see all of the different conversations materials here. Kids will still go back to that assignment. And when kids go ahead and they click on this, they're going to be able to see their work. Now, one of the things I really love about this is I can go in and see that assignment. I can see all of my students who have viewed it, who have not even opened it, who've turned it in. I can also see a student view right from here. So this allows me to look at what the kids see. And as well, when I'm in here, I can leave that individual private feedback for each one of my students, just right beside their name. When I click on each one of these particular assignments, I can also enter my specific and private feedback right here. And I can also see Christine right now inside of her Word document while she's working on her graphic organizer. So I can see how she's doing, what she's working on, how she's filling that out. I can switch to different student view easily. And of course, I can return that work if they've turned it in. So it's a great way to stay in contact with your students, even if we're not face-to-face. So those are our 2 digital classrooms that we're showcasing today. As you can see, there's still a lot of options. And this is where you need to have conversations with your site-based administrators and with your colleagues, your grade level colleagues. How are we going to organize this? How are we going to make sure that the students know which tool that they're using? And how are we going to communicate that to our parents? Now, we as the MTech team, we have a lot of different supports that we're going to be sending out in addition to this video, such as placemats showing you how to navigate the Office 365 world, getting started and getting connected guides with Google Classroom for parents and students, and much more. So now that we know that we have these potential digital classrooms in order to support the learning, just know that many of you do have other things such as Moodles or DTLs or other different types of online platforms which are perfectly acceptable, and you could basically translate these concepts into those digital environments. So now we want to talk about a really important feature to online learning. We want to look at how we can use video to support learning so that we can still give that much needed teacher instruction, maintain that face-to-face connection, and still have that human contact when we're all separated in different buildings. So we're going to go over some of those options for you here. So I'm going to flip back over here and we're going to see what we can do with video. We're going to look at that in a couple of ways. We're going to look at screencasting, which means I'm recording my screen. I'm showcasing what I'm doing on my computer screen, much like what I'm doing today. This is screencasting. Video recording is straight up just having these video recordings. We've had to record this video because we know the live stream version of this particular video wasn't working. So you're going to find that sometimes plan B through G all the way to Z sometimes is necessary, and that's okay. So if you don't want to have to experience the often embarrassing and struggle of live recording, go ahead and make sure that you can record that. But we are going to show you live recording because normally it is super awesome, and we're going to be using YouTube Live, yes, but we're also going to be showing you what this can look like inside of Microsoft Teams. So we're going to flip back on over here and show you what we can do. The first tool that we're going to talk about is we're going to jump back into that Teams video call. Now, what's great about this is Microsoft Teams is making this available to all educators regardless, all across Canada, all across the United States. You don't have to worry about, do you have an enterprise account right now? They want to make this tool available free to all educators to meet the needs of their students right now. One of the things is they've also increased the capacity of this tool, so you can now actually have up to 1,000 people inside of one Teams meeting as opposed to the previous limit of 250. We know that many different tech tools are offering some of these free things. Like right now, Zoom went free yesterday. We know that Google Hangouts went free. Whatever that platform of choice is for you, just remembering the power of having some of that communication. Now, for everybody here in Edmonton Catholic Schools, I'm going to show you those 3 ways that we can use Teams video meetings in order to connect with students, parents, and colleagues. And we here in the MTech team are going to be using these Teams meetings with an open meet all week for you to be able to video in and work with us so we can help you. So what the first thing I'm going to look at is going back to that classroom environment and reminding you of what that was going to look like. So once again, I can look inside of any of my teams. This will include my staff room groups as well as any Microsoft Teams classrooms I'm using. What's great is every single one of our schools has a staff room group already set up for them. So whether you're inside your schools together or you're still needing to connect outside of those hours or from home, we know you can do that. You click into the team that you're trying to use, and in the bottom of the conversation tab, you're going to go ahead and you're going to see that Meet Now button that's going to pop up that video chat. This also works within side of individual chats. So if I was going to go and I was going to look for Christine McKee, we're going to have our chat. One of the things I can do when I'm chatting with McKee and I'm going through and asking questions is in the top right hand corner, I of course see that video call button. I could be calling Christine. She could answer me. She's sitting right beside me. I don't know if she will.
I'm coming.
Mute. Okay, so right here we can have this collegial conversation. She's muted so we don't have some feedback. But of course we could be, look at us just pretending to talk, having some coffee, doing some planning. What's really great about this is I do have the share screen option. So now I can work with Christine. I can share with her my screen. I can show her what I'm trying to do. This can include my students. I could be going through specific notes, all of those different pieces. And then of course, I can stop sharing my screen. So we're just back to that chat. So it's a very powerful way to be able to show content, collaborate on something, and still connect face to face. All right, so when you're inside of your Outlook, one of the things you're going to notice in your Outlook calendar is there's something that says New Teams Meeting. When I can create that New Teams Meeting, it's going to open up the opportunity for me to be able to create a meeting via a link. Now this needs to be done with email addresses. I can give it a title. And of course, I can put who's invited. Now, I can go ahead and I can add my team. Again, all via those email links. And I can even have people outside of my district. So it's really anybody. And this is important when we're inviting parents. This would be the best way to have your parents come and join for some type of a meeting. Now, one of the things, don't forget, Edmonton Catholic, we do have our global address book, so you would be able to look up specific people there. Now I can give it that start and end time. So I'm going to go ahead and put it for today. I can make it available for all day. This is how we're going to create some office hour links for all of our teachers who want to sign up. Now I'm going to go ahead and say send. And what's going to happen, it's going to put that meeting right inside of my calendar. And now I can click open that meeting. And of course I can click that link and it's going to open up the Microsoft Teams meeting. I can say join now, and the same thing. I'm now inside my meeting and I'm able to have that meeting as other people join. I'll be able to see the different participants that are in here, and it runs the exact same way. Now, one of the tools that we are very excited about is Screencastify. This is something that we've been promoting in MTech since we started with Google. This is a free Chrome extension that allows you to create videos. You can create screencast videos or webcam videos. We have the link to the Chrome extension here. The easiest way to get kids to install this extension is to assign it inside of your Google Classroom or your Microsoft Team. There's an overview and there's many tutorials available for you right from Screencastify. So now that I have this extension installed, let me show you what this can look like. As soon as I click the Screencastify extension, I have the opportunity to record my browser tab, anything I do on my desktop, or my webcam only. Now, because I'm already screen recording, it's hard to screen record a screen recording. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my browser tab, but I'm going to need to turn off my webcam and my microphone so you can see what I can do to record and be able to do some inking. I'm going to hit record. And what's going to happen now is it's going to count down for me, and it's going to put some tools in my bottom left-hand corner. Everything that I do in this tab, the kids are going to see. So now what I can do is I can be clicked in here. I can be pointing out different notes and talking for my students, and I have inking tools. So I can come in here, I can circle, I can point to things, I can click on different pieces, and of course, show anything that I want to on my slide. I don't have to talk all at once. I can hit that pause button, and I can also resume my recording. Now what I can do when I hit pause and then stop, it's automatically going to save that video for me in my Google Drive already saved. And here you can see I went through, you're watching the video of what I created. You can see that I can do the different inking. And it's already going to be saved for me. What's nice is there is an editor. I have to wait till it's been uploaded to Drive, but I'm going to be able to do some of that editing where I can do some basic trimming, and I can even add some text and I can crop it. What's great about this right now is I can straight up directly just share this to Google Classroom. It'll open up my Google Classrooms and I can pick which one that I would like this loaded to. And I can say go. And it will open up that assignment interface right here. The other thing I can do is I can publish it to YouTube. I can just get a shareable link so that I can put it in my Microsoft Team, or I can send it via an email. And we'll try opening that editor again. When I fire up the editor, what's great is now I can do some of those trimming before I send that out. So in here I can see that I can do a little bit of cutting, I can do some trimming tools, I can look at my cropping tools, and of course, I can look at adding a bit of text over top of here if I really needed to. With the free version of Screencastify, you get 50 free videos per calendar month, and they can't exceed 10 minutes. If you want, you can upgrade to the premium version of Screencastify, but really I haven't needed to yet with my students, just depending on how long this online learning environment is working for us. Now, one of the things that I would have done is I would have taken that Screencastify video that I just recorded and made sure that I had that opening activity for my students. And so I'm going to show you how I just go ahead and throw that recording right into that assignment that I created inside of my Google Classroom. So I'm back in my Google Classroom, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit my non-feature text feature assignment. I'm going to add from my Google Drive. And because Screencastify already saved that video for me, I'm going to go ahead and add it, and it's going to be there for my students to be part of a support for this learning environment so they can hear my voice and see what it is that I'm asking them to do. Bless you, Ben.
Thank you.
I do want to show you inside of this Google Classroom. This comes from Mr. Pazik and Mr. Sadeo from St. Teresa of Calcutta, and you can see how they've organized now this complete support for online learning for grade 6, where they've organized it based on different subject areas, and students can go in and be able to follow that as they need. Nice and organized. Moving on with more of a video support, does anybody out there have Flipgrid fever? Where our very own Christine McKee is the queen of Flipgrid, and she has made some pretty amazing supports for Flipgrid online. And so you can connect right here with this bit.ly. She's got an amazing support site that is going to take you through every single aspect of using Flipgrid to enhance learning. What's really exciting about Flipgrid is it gives an opportunity for students to still have that face-to-face connection with not only their students, but each other. We know that our kids are going to miss each other. And so this is a nice way for students to be able to respond to a topic or a post, be able to record their videos, and of course, see their other classmates recording as well. This is a very safe environment because when we create these Flipgrid posts, what happens is that we choose the level of privacy that goes along with it. So we know right now that we can have our students be in these posts and no other students or teachers or anybody can see it. We can choose to have public Flipgrids if we want, but we do strongly recommend that you don't release your student Flipgrids publicly because, you know, it's the World Wide Web. And so we want to make sure that we're keeping them safe and any of those student images that we have in that safe environment. So I'm going to show you some Flipgrids that we have. The first thing you want to be able to do is go to flipgrid.com. When you get here, it's going to ask for your educator login. What's super convenient and wonderful is you can log straight in with Google. Now what you can see is all of my different grids. Don't forget, there's a very handy Getting Started guide in addition to all of Christine's materials she's created for you. In here we can see the different Flipgrids that I have, and I could go in here to my Grade 4 Science. Me and my grade partner, Christine McKee, we're running this together for our students so we can all be in here. You can create topics. So here we're going through all of our different things like seed germination, plants, water cycle. And so any one of these different grids we can go in and see. If I want to be able to share my Grade 4 Science Flipgrid, I'm going to go ahead and hit share. And what we're going to notice right away is the direct share straight to Google Classroom, straight to Microsoft Teams, or of course a link that you can share. This is going to allow them to have it assigned in their familiar classroom environment without having to navigate out to Flipgrid themselves. So now let's go see if we can take a look inside of one of these topics. So now that I'm inside of Grade 4 Science, what the students are going to see is your opening prompt, what you want them to be able to do. In this case, these kids have some bags of seeds at home for them, so we still have some of that physical learning. And what the students simply do on any web browser or even just the app, they hit the plus button and they're going to be able to record. They allow the use of their camera and their microphone, and suddenly they're here. So I could go ahead and say record. In this case, I can't right now because I'm already recording with my webcam to record this video. The students would be able to say record. They can even add things like different filters, stickers, text, just to be able to make the responses fun and engaging for each other. As soon as they're done, it'll be posted to the grid for everyone to see. So let's show you some that we've had created from some teachers. So in this case, this was from my Google Ninjas. We had a Flipgrid asking for some introductions, and right here we can see how easy it is to be able to go through and see each other and see each other's responses and just still have a lot of fun with learning. Educators view it in a bit of a different view. I can see all the responses from each individual one of my students, and I can go ahead and I can look at those different responses. I can share them. And of course, if I need to hide a response, I can still do that because, you know, they're at home and we don't always control what they're posting. So you still have the ability to take something off of grid that you don't want on there. There's even more you can do with Flipgrid, such as creating mixtapes. There's a disco library. It's just really one of those things that there's a lot of educator resources available to you. But what I really love is that it still integrates with our existing Google Classrooms and Microsoft Teams, so that again, we're not having to constantly pull our kids into different environments. So the last one that I want to show you for some video that could be helpful to you is looking at YouTube Live. Now, YouTube Live is the ability to launch a live video cast from your computer screen and be able to share your content immediately. One of the things that I can do is when I go to YouTube, if I make sure that I log into YouTube, I sign into YouTube with my account. Now when I see this upload button, I'm going to see go live. Now the first time you do that, it takes about 24 hours to activate your go live account. Once I say go live, then what it's going to do is it's going to open up a studio editor. So now I can go ahead, it's being used by another application, but I could go ahead and I could start to say, this is my post, this is when I want it to work, this is when I want it to say, here's who has access to it, all of those different pieces. And once we get our YouTube Live working again for everybody, we will have those going out soon. Now, we're coming to the end of our time. We wanted to keep this to be under an hour for everybody, but we want to talk about some of the other online supports and resources that we have available. We know that in Microsoft Teams and Google Classroom, we have the ability to add things like videos, links, games, other reinforcement and practice. And this is again where we want to have everybody sort of take a breath. We know that right now, due to everybody in all good nature wanting to support one another, there has been an inundation of 100 free resources for online learning. Hey, click this, it's all free. Click this, you can do this with students. Here's a spreadsheet with another 1,000 things you can do. It can be overwhelming. Right now, the best line of thought is to take those quality resources that we know align with our programs of studies that maybe we have already consistently been using with our students for reinforcement and practice, and we can continue to link those to our digital classrooms. We don't necessarily want to be able to use these digital resources as an overwhelming factor for our students or simply to be 7 hours of busy work. We still need to be able to balance how much screen time our students are having in addition to some of the physical literacy practices, outdoor breaks, and physical materials that they might have available in front of them. So one of the things that we've done here is we have a list of sort of our Letterman top 10 for some of the different tools that are out there. It's intentionally not comprehensive because we don't want to overwhelm. And we've connected with our different LSI curriculum and language consultants to be able to help provide supports in these different areas. Inside of this presentation that we've shared with you, you might see that we might have some more additional links and materials that will continually be added for you as we go. And so we're going to take a look at some of those ones that we have available to you, knowing that there's a lot of others, but these are the ones that we think are the best. One tool that we do really love for that online practice is we do love Google Forms. There's even Google Forms lock mode available, which does mean that students can only write that Google form on a Chromebook and they can't access any other tab. Now, one thing to really notice about this, though, is that we don't necessarily know the supervision situation in a home environment. So we can't rely upon this as a pure summative assessment where we know that the student hasn't used another device, such as a mobile device, in order to look up answers to be able to complete this form. But it still can allow students to be able to practice some of those important concepts that they would have done in class in order to be able to create these forms. So, for example, perhaps I had a trees and forests test that I would have given in my class. This is something Michael used in his grade 6 classroom as they're exploring trees and forests. And what we're able to do is upgrade the assessment. We turned it into a Google form. So number one, we could add things like pictures and videos. But also, we're going to use this now is practice and reinforcement for students without necessarily worrying about providing a summative mark at this point until we find out how we can do that in our online environments. So when I go to my form, one of the things I'm going to see is the ability to put in questions. We've put in what's your first and last name, and we've straight copy and pasted these questions right from Google Forms. What we really love is we went from the text-based only to now we could go ahead and we can put in things like students are watching a video and then answering a question. The other thing we can do is have some different upgrades, like what's the best description of this leaf? This looks a lot different than looking at this clip art of a balsam poplar on the bottom of our page. We can now put in some real life images and questions. We can also offer picture questions as answers for our students instead of just text-based answers, which will help provide context and support perhaps our English language learners. What I can do is I can straight assign this in my Google Classroom. I can come here, I can create an assignment. I can also create a quiz assignment which allows me to create the form right from here. Now when I create the assignment and I go to add the material, I go straight to my Google Drive. It's going to pull up my recent and I'll be able to put in that trees and forest form right from here. I'll select it and add it, which one I want. And now it's right in here, and there's the lock mode on Chromebooks. It's important to note with our students being at home and on multiple devices, we might not be able to turn that on simply because it will restrict them from being able to do these practice materials on mobile devices or PC computers. We have a lot of other ways to do some online practice and quizzing. Right now, many of these wonderful companies have made their services available to us as educators for free in order to support the fact that we don't necessarily have face-to-face learning. Here you can see Kahoot, quizzes, and even Edpuzzle. On each one of these pages, you can go ahead and click the link and be taken straight to that support. You're going to be able to see that a lot of them have some distance learning support on it, and you also know that you'll have premium access to tools completely for free. What's great about Kahoot is they've just recently released the ability in Canada to be able to play Kahoots all on your own in challenge mode without having to have that face-to-face, we're all competing against each other in the classroom. It's a fun way to be able to provide questions and answers for students to practice. We also have broken down some of our favorite online reading and writing support tools. These were vetted for us by our literacy consultants here at LSI. Did you know that you have access to thousands of high-interest books available for your students? Get Epic really is epic because this is a beautiful digital library that's available for multiple grade levels with high-interest books in full color available on any device. And so this is a great way to be able to set up your classroom for your students so they still have access to their full library even if they can't touch those physical books. On this page, we also have some support for hundreds of free books with Learn Alberta, just making sure that you log in with your division username and password, Story Online, Literacy Shed, and don't forget that Read, Write, Think has some great graphic organizers, prompts, and materials for you to use right in your classroom. Remembering that all of these different ones that I'm assigning are simply assigned via a link in my Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. We also have a lot of online math support tools that have been given to us by our math consultants here at LSI. You can see many different things from online games and resources and practice, interactive tools, things for supporting equations and logic. And you'll know that there's even things like manipulatives. So even though we can't all go and share those geoboards and fraction pieces in our classroom, I can use the free Chrome apps or iOS and Android apps where I'm still able to manipulate and use these different pieces. What's great is we can now use screen recording, so kids could technically use their fraction pieces in the app. They can screen record it and hand that in to their teachers as part of their Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. And we're going to have some more videos this week about the student perspective made specifically for students. How do I hand in things like screen recordings and other materials to my students? We have a lot of multi-curricular and cross-curricular things available to us too, like our Discovery Education Suite, Smart Online Learning Suite, Khan Academy, and BrainPop is currently free due to school disruptions. Our language consultants offered us a great variety of resources here, and you can click on each one of these images below to access the link to all of the different things like podcasts, reading materials, and books and videos to help support second language learning. Edmonton Catholic Schools is ever committed to making sure that our students still are able to have their faith-based resources available to them. And here you can see our religion consultants made sure that our elementary and secondary curriculum resources have been attached for our schools to be able to continue learning. Passwords are protected to our district and you can click on the links to be able to get them. And of course, we have many supports for our early learning. We know that this is a very significant area of support because how do we make sure our early learners are supported in an online environment when this might not be a way that they've traditionally been supported before? But we can still do things like post videos, books, links to games, and reinforcement activities for parents and caregivers to be able to do with the children at home. This is where video is so important to us because we have to remember we're not only explaining things to kids, we are explaining things to the caregivers with the students at home. You can click on this image below to get to our early learning support site. We finally just want to say a great big thanks. We want to say a great big thanks for tuning in and watching this video. We apologize for our technical difficulties before, but we want to let you know that we're committed to providing technology support during this entire time that we need to be able to look at our online learning. So we're going to be having things like open office hours that you can sign up for to tune into our Microsoft Teams and get any type of digital support. We're going to make sure that we're releasing videos on a weekly and perhaps even daily basis for things like student collaboration, digital whiteboarding, how do kids use Google Classroom and video tools, how do we create posters, and still all kinds of things to make sure that this learning continues, not only continues, but continues in a powerful way so that students are still learning. So that's it from us here at the MTech team. We're happy to support Edmonton Catholic Schools and all of our viewers from other divisions around the country, around the world. Please reach out via email and connect with us, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see any of our other upcoming videos that we're going to have to make sure that all this learning continues. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.